Awesome. Hey everyone, Derek here. I'm an optimizer here at Vine Skills, Georgia attorney. I went through and I handled lien resolution, subrogation within Georgia for a personal injury firm for a handful of years before doing finance, being a finance attorney for the firm. And then I realized I really enjoy working on the business and making improving businesses. And so I've been over at Vine Skills for 3 years now, and it's been absolutely wonderful. And so I'm happy to be able to go through and talk to y'all today about doc generation, kind of where you need to go through and start so that you have a good, solid understanding to be able to go through and create your own documents. All right, so I have some things pulled up and I'll go through and I'll share my screen so everyone can go through and see. All right, so first things first, when you're going through and you're starting with your inside Filevine, you have to have a widget that's going to allow you to go through and create your documents. So that'll be your very, very first step. And you do have to have the advanced permissions in the background, specifically the ones related to customs editor and also our DocGen setup. So here I have one of our templates. This is just an idea, our sandbox of ideas for us that I'm going to go through and create one in. And we have Gandalf the Great is my test project right now. So we're going to build something in case summary, and it'll just be a quick, simple little letter, and we can go through and talk about how the different things are working. I'm sorry. Okay, so here in the customs editor, I'm going to find and determine what section I want to go through and create my widget in. Now, there are some things that we need to think about as we're going through and placing these widgets. For example, if you're wanting to create, let's say, something like a form section to be able to go through and pull information from a collection section item, it's not going to go through and work well for you. You want to, let's say medicals, since that's the one that I opened up. For medicals, if I want to be able to pull any of this information from any of these fields here, I need to go through and have a DocGen field here in in my medical section, much like this medical templates is right here. There are no documents right there, so sorry all for that. But if there were, I went through and generated it. It's going to go through and pull directly from each of these fields rather than pull from one of the other ones. So that way you're getting your right provider, your right information. It's just a way to make sure that your focal point is just on that one section. Oh, we have a lot of different things going on.
There is a question, Derek. From liens section, they can't find the code to place the lien holder or the email address the letter is being sent from. Can you maybe go over that when you get into coding out the document?
Who is going through and sending out the letter?
If you could clarify, we'll just give them a few seconds to clarify in the Q&A.
Oh, there it is. So we'll keep kind of going through while we're waiting for that. But I will say too, the part of an answer for that as well is after you go through and we've created our actual DocGen widget field. Here I'm going to go through and create it within. We'll go through and do our case summary. Let's see here. I'm just going to come in here at the top and I can just add my field, my widget. Remember, if you're not familiar with these, this is your row number, so which way it's going to appear in the actual project. So we can imagine, like row 1, row 2, row 3, and then column. So it's like column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Okay, so I can go through and determine where exactly I want it. For me, it doesn't really matter right now because we're going to go through and we're going to do a case summary doc generation. Actually, let's go through and do a social media letter. That's what we'll call it. I know that is a more popular one. If I save it right away, it's going to go through and it's just going to be a text box. So we need to turn this into a widget. And I personally prefer to do the doc generation multi-template. So then you don't have to have, let's say if you have 30 documents for one section, you don't have to have 30 different buttons. You just have that one that you can go through and search in. So I can create that right here. And then I can go through and I can decide, hey, do I want anything to be tagged with any of the documents that are generated here? So I'm going to do tag and I will do social media. Now, I don't believe this is a tag. And since it's our sandbox environment, I am just going to go through and create that just to go through and have that in there for our example. And then I can choose exactly which folder I want it to go to. Since we're in case summary and this is going to be related to our clients in our first information, I'm just going to drop it in the base folder for our client intake. Shows where or that it was drafted, and then when it's sent, we could also go through and have a PDF copy there too as well. Okay, so going through, we have our first widget. Now, if I look at my actual DocGen section, which if I clicked here, it's just going to open up this page for me. I've already gone through and I've already picked which organization we are in and which section. But you can see here I only have one widget. So it's not going to work for me right away. I do have to refresh, which is totally okay. That is definitely normal. And I can go back into my Find Skills sandbox, pick my template, which is just our ideas template, come back to that section where I just added that, and then I can go through and I can find the actual area. Now, as I'm going through and I'm working on documents here, this social media letter, and this is going to answer your questions as well from Tobler Law. When you click on the field list, it's going to open up a great page of all of the different fields that you can go through and you need. Now, that could be potentially your issue is if you're not able to get the lien holder's contact info from your on that question, it may need to be doing it within the lien section. If you are within the lien section already, I would double check to make sure you know exactly what these different fields are, the actual fields that you're trying to pull the information in. So like this field here, it's a person field. In our case summary, it's for lead attorney. And if I wanted to pull information from that, I would use this part of this code. And we'll see more of that here in a second too, especially, well, maybe if this goes through and it loads for it.
What you're seeing on the front end or in a project is not always the code that you'll pull in. So for the example Derek gave, it said lead attorney, but if he tried to search that in that field list that's popping up, it won't show up because on the back end, it's called primary attorney. And so that may also be part of the reason why you're not seeing that particular field.
Oh, that was a perfect example. I mean, thanks, Jasmine. I didn't even catch that. Yes. So that is what I was getting for is make sure you look at you're looking for what this actual field is. So double check that because for this example, lead attorney is not going to go through and or is not primary attorney will not appear there for it. So you're just going to have some issues with it. So just make sure you know kind of what those are. Sometimes it's good to just kind of have both pages pulled up. A lot of times what I will do is I'll pull up a project so I can look to see exactly where those fields are coming from. And then if I do run into any issues, then that's how I handle it. I go to our custom section, our customs editor, and I look for the actual field code that widget, or not, well, that's a staff, that's a header, so that's not going to work. So it's going to be, yeah, the field selector code right there. Okay, so now that this is loaded, this is from clicking the field list, open it up. And the reason it takes so long in our organization is just because we have so many different templates we're going through. We're working on trying to figure out how to improve things for a lot of the firms that we're going through and we're working with and businesses that we're working with. You probably will not have issues like that, like we do, but we also have, I think we have like 35 templates in here now. Okay, so I've gone through and I have my field list. I have two options. Well, more than two, I guess. I could go through and just list all my fields. I'm not going to do that because I don't want to sit here and wait for it for the longest time. And it will probably crash on me just because we have too many fields. So here I can find whichever section I want to go through and look for. Let's see here. I can hit Command F or Control F, depending on what system you're on. And let me just search for case summary. Perfect.
And for those of you that do DocGens frequently, there are certain codes that are going to be the same across the board. So you probably will have known some of them, right? Like your client name, incident, like those basic ones, today's date are all standard across the board. So if you don't pull a full list, you can still add those codes in off of memory if you'd like, or you can individually kind of pick and choose which sections. Again, it's a much shorter list, still very long. You can see the scroll is still very tiny, even with just this one section pulled, but does make it a little bit easier on your computer.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is just a a document that I had. I know what this is, a HIPAA letter for it, but you can kind of see how this is laid out. We have our client.name and client.address one block, and generally these are going to be the same across the board. Also, if you're working on multiple letters at one time, I highly recommend you can build it in one, and then you can just copy those fields over to the other. Especially, you have those very frequently used fields. You can save those and just kind of save you some time when you're building these out. But looking at these different fields, we can see the different, I guess, the different fields that are going to be pulled in. So this is client name. That is pretty self-explanatory, but I could go through and search for, client name up here and see if it pulled anything for me. This may not give it to me because we are on the actual, we're in the case summary ones. But if I were to come up here and look for my client, then I can go through and I'll see those there. So it's really important to know where those fields are. And if you know where those fields are, it's going to be a lot easier for you. Oh, this one's going to take its sweet time again.
If you're like, I don't know where the sections are, I don't want to have to like just use the full field list. It'll pull all the codes in and you can just search. It does take a while for it to load sometimes because there are so many codes in there. Obviously, we have a sandbox, so we have a ton more codes than probably you all have. And so that's also why you're seeing a delay. Are you able to do split screen?
Sorry, I'm not. But I going through and pulling up, I guess, putting the two side by side like that, or I mean, we can go through and we can do that. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, I can only go this far because I do have other screens on here, so it's not going to snap for me. Okay, so we can see just, a couple things. Oh, this is our, oh no, this one. This is our client one right here. It did go through and load. Yeah, we can see client full name is client.name. And really, it is just a matter of just going through and you can click the little copy and just paste it over here. I would say too, just double check to make sure that, at the end of it, you have all of your text in the way that you want. So here, I have it in Cambria body, just because it could be potentially a different font that's going through it. So I can go through and I can start kind of building out. Here, there are only a few fields that I'm looking for. It's a very, this is a very basic letter for it. It's just to the client's address. And as long as that information's in Filevine, it'll be pretty easy for us. We do need to go through and add a signature line. And so from here, I can take a look at our case summary. And this letter is going to be, this one is a HIPAA one, which I know we called it a social media one, so sorry about that. But I can come into our, yeah, I'm not able to go through and figure out which one I'm on now. I can come here and I can do case summary. And I can search it a couple different ways. Well, maybe I can. Let's see here. No, that's the client one.
Highly recommend using that find feature. It is going to save you a ton of time. If you're on a Mac, it's Command F. If you're on a PC, it should be Control F, to search kind of what those codes are. Again, it'll save you a ton of time. You can see the scroll on the side is very tiny. It does
Yes,
have to be somewhat exact. So having a project or the customs editor open will also be helpful.
absolutely. And so here, each of these different fields as well, they're broken out by section, and then it's your field. And then for like contacts, it's going to be the part of the contact. So that's just that general structure of it. Here, let me go to, I want to put our legal assistant in. So I'm just going to go through and just search for legal. Oh, perfect. Assistant. Wonderful. And we can just do our full name. So I could just copy here and then come through and I have it pasted. So when I go through and I save this, then and try generating it, it'll pull whatever is in that spot. We do want to go through and add company as well. So I'm just going to get rid of full and I'm just going to look for company. And as you do more of these, you'll get more used to how each of these should look, kind of how things are built out. And let me do, let's see here. Well, we can go through and actually just pull on our email as well.
For every email, phone number, and address, you'll have 8 options. So make sure that you're pulling the correct one. Usually, you all may want to come up with like a rule of thumb, especially for phone numbers, right? Maybe the first phone number that you put in is going to be your client's main contact. The second is maybe a fax, something along those lines. So again, you have a kind of baseline standard as you're pulling these codes in.
So,
How do you recommend creating DocGens on law firm letterheads?
so there are I guess it really depends on what your letterhead is like. If you have pre-printed papers that have your letterhead on there, then it's not going to go through and work for you. But if you have something like this, I can actually, if I wanted to, I could go through and actually add a smart header. I don't know if I have a readily available link that I can actually go through and use it on. Let me see here. But I guess I can kind of show you. Let me find just a quick image that we can go through and work with for that. But it's a merge field that's built into Filevine, or not Filevine, into Word that you'll be able to go through and use. Let's see here. Gotcha. The letterhead's on the right side of the paper. Okay. So then what I would do for that one, if I was going to show the smart header, which is a little bit different. We can still go through and look at that. But on the right side of the paper, well, what I would go through and do is, oh, I clicked the wrong one on there. Sorry. I would go through and make it just a full page and then put it on the side so that it goes through and appears that way. But I know, Jasmine, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, if you have your letterhead already on the document, that totally is fine. You can upload your documents as is. So with whatever watermarks, letterhead, anything like that that you have. If your letterhead changes frequently, right? Maybe attorneys' names are changing or things like that. That's when that dynamic letterhead that Derek was talking about might be a better option. It's essentially a hosted image that we host on our website so that as it changes, it easily updates all of your templates. Because if you just have a image on your template, right, whether it's on the right hand side or at the top, and you make a change, you're going to have to go into every DocGen individually to update that logo or letterhead. But if you're like, our documents already have it on there, you can import that document and then just go in and change the names to be the codes that you're looking for.
Yes. So this is something with that. I don't have a URL, so sorry, but this is something that you'd be able to go through and do. You can do a links and references. It's going to be include picture. Yes, I do trust it. And since I don't have a picture, it didn't pull anything in. But as Jasmine said, we can go through and we can host it on the Vine Skills website. And then if you ever need to go through and change it in the future, then you would just kind of let us know and we can replace that image. And they need to be the same size, but if they are essentially the same size, it's pretty fast to go through and get them updated. I do not, besides for showing what I just showed right now, Virginia, I don't have it written out. But I think we might have, I'm not for sure. Jasmine, do we have something um
I'm not sure
on
I
our
can.
page for how
Yeah,
to go through and do those?
you have something. Typically, we host for clients. So if you're working with us, we will host your letterhead. If you want to shoot us an email, if that's something that you're interested in, we can definitely set something like that up for you. But I'll check our kind of Loom library to see if we have anything as well.
Thank you, Jasmine. One thing we should mention with these is that if they go through and you've generated all of them, or with the smart letterhead, it when you go through and you open in the viewer here, there is a current bug right now, I believe, in some orgs where it's not going to go through to pure up. Just so that you do know that. I have run into it myself, which is very unfortunate. But it is still, if you're going through and, oh, dang it, wrong one again. There we go. Sorry, I keep clicking the wrong one for the Q&A. But once you've gone through and you've set it up, and if you're not experiencing a bug like that, it's very nice. And I will say, I personally I do download a lot of my stuff to be able to go through and work on. Use both with that and with Filevine as well. So it's kind of have to weigh those risks or weigh that if you want to go through and deal with that or not. I think it's personally worth it just because I know how hard it is to go through and do the rebranding. It's not a lot of fun. So if we already have that built in, it's smooth sailing, pretty easy to go through and do. So normal, or if we had that issue, we wouldn't go through and see it right here. And I'm not for sure if this is a smart letterhead or not on it. It's just a 2-year-old document for my Gandalf the Great file. Okay, so with our DocGens, we have our basic ones in here. I'm going to go through and I'm just going to put a little error in one of them quickly, but I'm going to go through and I'm going to add that in. It is our need new, well, it's called a new HIPAA. That's not a great title, but I can go through and I can upload it and see what it says at us. As you can see too, this name in the brackets has client.name. So when this is generated in a client's file, it would go through and pull that client's name in that file. Perfect. Here I had an error in one of my replacement codes. I did just throw a unique letter in there, that B. So it's not going to actually let me add it, which is nice. It's a nice way to be able to show you exactly where any errors are if you have them. Now, if I go through and just take that B out, let me save it again, and I can go through and should be able to just upload it. And it should not have any errors this time. Watch it have errors on me. Okay, perfect. So it's gone through and it's pulled. The reason that you do see this number 1 there is because this document is in the template somewhere else, the exact same name, which is why it's going through and appearing. When creating an if merge field that has multiple paragraphs, when the document is created, the paragraphs are changed to manual line breaks. Is there a way to keep the paragraphs? Oh, let's see here. It's possible that there is something, Stephen, it's possible, Stephen, that there's something happening in yours that is going through and just kind of like, that's causing that issue and causing those to go down. Because I'm assuming from what you mean is that instead of inserting the actual doc or like text, it's just going through and pushing it one down. There might be some error somewhere in there because I haven't really gone through and had to deal with that. They usually after tinkering with them, I am able to go through and get them to work. I can go as well. Once you've uploaded the document, you can actually, if you just double click on it and open it up in your previewer, I can see all of my fields here. I don't actually need to download this to edit it. I can just hit the little edit button and I want to open it in Microsoft Word. Oh, and now I gotta move it over, but here I have the same document, same title at the beginning, but now you can see we have underscore and we have all of the different things in there. That means that I am editing it from Filevine. I can make any changes here I want to, and then be able to go through, just hit save, and assuming that they are correct, they will then be able to be generated from any new documents in Filevine, which is absolutely wonderful. Great to be able to edit in one place and automatically right away be able to generate it from wherever. So anything can be added in here. We could go through and add any, if-then scenarios if we needed to. We could do anything that we need to do with the document to be able to save it. Now, we won't get into it too much, but if you are looking to go through and get information from, let's say, multiple collection sections, as well as your static section. So here, I believe in Gandalf the Great, we have our medical one, and I believe, do we have another? I'm sure we do have another one that we can pull up. Let's go through and pull up our liens one. If I wanted to pull information from both of these at the same time, I'd have to use a fusion. A regular DocGen wouldn't go through and work. So just keep that in mind too. That might be an issue that you're experiencing, and if so, you can always go through and reach out to us about fusions too as well. Wonderful.
Or if you have FVDA, you can also, or Outlaw, you can pull from multiple collection sections from there. Could you show how to code if then fields, for example, pronouns?
Yes, I can. Let's see here. I have a when I go through and do my merge fields, I actually have a tool that goes through and adds it in there. So let me, is it, not for sure which one it is, to actually go through and add them in there now.
Mhm.
So I can go through, well, I'll have to go through and use mine. I can take a look it up again, but I am, once you have your merge fields added like this, you just need your one on there to go through and start. You can start building it out. So the logic for if then scenarios is if A or X equals Y, then true, otherwise false, right? That's basically what we're going to be looking at. So we'll break it out. We'll go through and we start with just our if statement. So I'm going to add if, and then I do a quote, and I insert another merge field here. Now, while we do call these merge fields here in our like our DocGen fields, they're considered Filevine merge fields and not actual Word ones. So we need to go through and follow the rules for our Word document ones. Let me go through and pull up or just search for gender, see if I can't find my client gender as a card here. If not, let's do client. And we'll do, actually, that'd be where I need to be closer. Go through and pull it, client dot custom. Nope. Client details. Let's see. Which one am I not pulled on my client one? Might have to actually go through and pull it up. Even though it should probably be client.custom.gender. That's usually what I go through and do. We can start with it like that, and then we can update it while it's loading. So I'm gonna have my merge field, and then I'm gonna do client.custom.gender. Now this is me assuming that this is the correct field. We will go through and double check it once it's loaded. Okay, so this is the first breakout for it. I have if the client customs gender equals, and then you whatever your options are in there. So if I'm starting with male, I can, if I in the contact card the individual is listed as a male, then I want it to come back as him. So this if the client custom.gender, this is our test right here, equals male. And then this is our true statement is him. Now our false statement, we're not actually going to put another field in there. We're going to go through and we're going to just start with a quote and then insert a new merge field, and we're going to start with or go through and put our if then scenario again. So here I can then add the second part to it, and it all depends, how many genders you have listed in your Filevine. Perfect. But now I have the second one, and I will, let me just mark that down so we can kind of break it out like that, make it a little bit easier. So if the gender of the client equals female, spell, then I want it to be her. And then otherwise, I want to be them. Wonderful. So that's how it goes through and breaks it out. It's true, false, and then that first false statement is your second if statement that you're going through and working on. Now here I should, when I add fields like this, I want to make sure that I highlight it, right click it, update our field, and see how it defaults to them right away. We toggle our field codes. I just want to make sure that it's updated. And then if I go through and I upload this, I should have done on the upload one, this is the compatibility one, then it would go through and it'd be able to generate for us. If you generate a basic doc like this, can you save it again under a different name and then edit that doc to change the wording for something else that you need? Okay, so you save it under a different name. Yes. I'm not exactly sure which question you're asking for it, but both questions that I think you could be asking are going to be yes. So I'm not able to go through and do that directly in here. If we're talking about creating a brand new DocGen off of this one, I can't just make a copy here in Filevine, but I can download it and I can change it and re-upload it. Now, if I'm actually in a client file, like I am here for Gandalf, let me refresh this because we did add our field at the very beginning. I can go through and I can generate it. Hopefully it doesn't take too long to generate. It shouldn't. And as long as I'm using a multiple document, you can have multiple documents in there. This is really easy to do too. Because now I have this one, I can go through and I can, let's say, I can even just rename it to something else. And then would be able to go through and generate a new document for it. So then that way you could have versions too if you're generating that same document. So I'm not for sure which one you're asking for, but yes, maybe not directly, but overall, yes. But they should go through, and here we go. We have the two documents now. Just because I changed that one or this title here, it now stays there. Wonderful. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, I should say too, the question when it came down to, oh, would you look at this? This is another one too. So this is kind of, that one's gone through and it's already built out as well. What I would say is when you're going through and you're doing these, and once you've built one that works right the first time, just copy and paste it, put it on another document so that you can just keep using it. Or as you're going through, you can also, let's say, you can find if you have like he/she in there, however you have it, you can find those and just replace it with that. Just make sure that you have the correct grammar in there for it. He, him, or he, they, she, her, whichever one it needs to be. Wonderful. All right, cool. Let's see here.
One merge fields that I do want to point out for the addresses, there are several options for each of the addresses that you can put in. So I mentioned that there were 8 phone numbers, 8 emails, and 8 addresses that you can put in. Within the addresses specifically, you have several options. So as you can see, client address 1, line 1, so on and so forth. That client address 1 is essentially going to have line 1, line 2, city, state, zip, all in a single line. Address 1, line 1 is just going to be line 1, city, state, zip, all of that. The block option is going to take your client's name and then the address listed how you would kind of have it if you're sending out any letter, or, for most of our documents. And then the address 1 block with company info is going to have your client's name, the company that's listed in their contact card, and then line 1, line 2, city, state, zip listed below that, again, in a block format, not in a singular line. So as
Yes.
you to code those out specifically, because somebody asked about liens, right? And pulling in the address for the lien holder, block might be a good option. That way you don't have to pull multiple codes in. It will still bring in that person's name plus their address info.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jasmine. Yes. So, and then too, as well as you're adding your org information, it's going to follow the same type of thing. Let's see. I don't know if this one will pull our org. I wish I could just pull all of them, but it would crash on us. So we have our org info right there. It's going to be the same type of thing, but it's your it's your settings in the background. So if I come into setup and I come into orgs, let me open up the VineSeals sandbox one. Okay, so then this is your address 1. And then this would be your address 2, 3, 4, and I believe we go all the way up to 10 now. I haven't had to use all of them, but that's kind of the logic that you'll go through and you'll follow. Ooh, it probably wouldn't let me save if I tried, though. I'm not going to go through and try it. I don't want to mess anything up on that. But that is how that goes, or that is going to work. Let's see here. Oh, at the very bottom of these pages, I was already there. Wonderful. We have some different things, different Filevine merge fields that you could go through and you could use. So being able to have filter examples, so you can go through and you can edit how dates look. You know, you have these are all different ways and the different ways to be able to go through and get there. Now, if you're looking at, I will say, dollar amounts, and you want to be able to insert the comma in the correct place and make sure that you have the cents in the right place, you're going to want to use the actual merge field that comes with Word instead, because then you're able to put that switch on there and really format it. You're not able to do that as well here, but you are able to go through and pull things out, like the last 4 digits of a social security number, which are perfect when you have to go through and, you have to have some sort of verifying information for your client. It's just on there, but you don't have to go through and have their entire social, which is really nice. Capitalize and lowercase, those are going to be there as well. And then we can also go through, have some different, condition booleans, so that we get yes or no for it too. If you're like making it a DocGen that is not a letter to go out, but it's a DocGen for you to, let's say, like it's a case summary type of document, then you can have different things like that on there. I am able to go through too, and for our signature lines, I know there are, like for the case, bleh, I can't speak. If we have our attorney, let's say it was our attorney here, we'll just say it's our assigned attorney. And they are the they are the writer of the document, the author of the document. And we have our transcriptionist. When we do our 2 initials, the big initials slash and then small initials are for the typist, we can go through and we can do that with these merge fields as well. So if I find any of the attorney ones, probably not. Okay, let's do attorney first. Okay, so I want my lead attorney first name. That's how I'm going to go through and start off with it, because that is who is going to be the author of the letter, even though they are not the typist. I'll just paste that there for now. Let me pull their last name while I'm at it. I'll put just a slash between there. And then let me pull my legal assistant first name. And then let's pull that last name too. Wonderful. Okay, so I have those in there, and now I can start working to edit these. I'm going to come down here, and we're going to be using a couple of these. So we have capitalized, title case, and lowercase. Right now, what I want to do for our primary attorney, I want them to have a capitalized first letter of their first name and their last name, and then lowercase for the assigned paralegal. So since it's generally a name, you don't have, or normally you're not going to have to worry about capitalizing everything, so we'll skip that right now. But I do want to be able to go through and pull this left. So this is field name, and then you can do left and the number of characters that you want. I like this example here. So left 3 is going to get you 111. Right 8 is going to get you these ones. So I can come in here and I can put the vertical line left : 1. And then now that I've gone through and done that, I can easily just paste that across the board. Oh, or delete all of it at one time. Wonderful. Let me make sure I have that in there too, because the formatting is going to go through and matter for it. Wonderful. Now, for the case summary assigned paralegal, I want them to have a lowercase name. So I'm going to actually just tack on right behind that left one and space, and then I'm going to write lowercase. And I can just copy that over too as well. Put my vertical bar and then lowercase. So this is, let's see here if I can't break it out just a little bit more so you can, or it's easier to see how each of these should individually look. Okay, we'll get rid of assigned attorney right there. Okay, so that's how you would go through and you would do it. Don't put the spaces, or I just added the spaces in there to make it easier to see. But if you just keep them together, it should just go through and pull in. If you have screen, or if you're able to, you can always go through and take a screenshot of this, because once you've done this, if you have a lot of your letters on there, you can just copy and paste it. So the merge field assistant tab is actually a custom, it's a custom tab that we have developed for Vine Skills. So it's just internal use only for us, but that's what allows us to be able to go through and do it. Just develop to be able to add those fields in quickly, which is unfortunately why I'm not as good as remembering all the different codes, especially not for Mac, where I'm a little bit different
on. I would also say for the initials, if you're like, hey, the booleans or the string modifiers are a little bit difficult, you can always just add something like initials to the contact card and bring that in as a field. So
Absolutely.
that's an option as well. Your contact card is customizable as far as that details page or any of the other additional tabs that you add, and you can add based off of firm staff. Maybe anytime you have firm staff designated as the contact type, initials are going to show for you.
Yes.
Things with
Those. Oh,
yeah.
sorry, Jeff. I was just going to say it really depends on individually for you and the firm what's going to work best for everybody. And I say, it's whatever is going to go through and work best, go with that one. There's not really a wrong or a right way to do it. We want to just make sure that it's that it's working correctly and that the team is able to be as productive as they can. That's our ultimate goal for it. So whatever works, go for it.
And one other thing that I will mention, I can't remember if we kind of talked about this already, but for every section that you have a DocGen in, you are always going to be able to pull in your contact card fields, your like project name, project ID, those standard fields, and also any field that's in a static section. The difficulty starts to come when it's collection sections. But again, you can use fusions or things like that if you do need to combine from multiple collection sections. The data that you will see, because you'll still see medical info in the case summary section, but it is averages, highest, latest, the same things that you can bring into the vitals are what you can bring into the DocGens.
Oh,
And
yes. Good example, vitals.
I always like to remind folks at the very top of this page, that was a terrible line, so my apologies, but it tells you what section you're pulling these fields from. You should get in the habit of regenerating the field list for each section. So even if you're like, hey, it's the same codes across the board, just again, for that consistency's sake, it's best to regenerate that field list if you move to code out a DocGen in the medicals section or the liens section.
Yes. And generally, as I'm going through and working on these, I'm going to have each of these sections pulled up at the same time, and I'm just going to be able to go through and reference it. That way, too, I'm not having to use using the same tab and have to go through them and wait, because it's not the quickest thing to have to go through and wait for them. But yeah, if anyone's making any adjustments or anything during that time, make sure then that you're refreshing these pages as you go along too. Just because any changes that are made in Filevine, they can be live, they're live right away, but you're not going to necessarily see them until you've refreshed. So just keep that in mind too as well. And if you're currently working on something, I would say finish that section first before doing each of your DocGens. Otherwise, you'll find yourself just having to do those DocGens over and over and over, which is not fun for you. And you have other things to go through and do with that. So, but yeah, I will say too, if you do have DocGens and you have removed a field, you could potentially run into some issues. Just be aware of that too. It could go through and happen. Same thing is if someone comes through and then you probably do not have the permissions for it, but I know some people do, where the field selector can be edited. If this is edited, and you have DocGens that are based on that field, they're going to go through and they're going to break. So just kind of keep that in mind too. If you are moving things around in your sections, that it's more likely than not we're going to need to go through and review all of your documents just to make sure that there aren't any bad changes. Things aren't broken. Things are still going through and generating for you. Cool. Is there anything else that anyone would want, or any questions that anyone has or wants to go through and see? No, we're getting close on time, but so I want to blab at y'all. Is there a way to code a numbers field into a currency into a currency field in the letters.
So
I'm trying to.
you're wanting to change a number into a currency amount.
Oh, like handwriting. Like if you were to write a check instead of writing $100,000, you write, or 1,000, comma 00. You're writing 100 like in natural language. Because I will say I do not.
Like, I'm glad we're asking for clarification because I took that a completely different.
Did
Um,
you? And I could be totally wrong too. Oh.
so yeah, if you can clarify, we'll kind of wait to see what that clarification looks like. I took it as like, oh, they're tracking a number, but they want it to be a currency. So we'll see
Gotcha.
what that looks like. While we wait for that, at the beginning, Derek, when he created that field, he auto mapped and auto tagged that document. So when he went to generate it, it should show up with that folder and with that tag. Now, if you all change your folder structure after you've kind of mapped stuff out, and let's say you deleted this client intake folder, the mapping will not delete. It will still show that it's mapped to the client intake folder, meaning when you generate a document, it's going to add this folder. So keep
Yep.
that in mind too if you're, frequently shuffling stuff. If there's a folder that you currently have that you're like, we're not sure if we're going to keep it, you might want to consider not mapping it, or know that, again, if you delete it, it will still be mapped.
Yep. And you can also use that for your advantage too as well. Let's say you only want the folder if that document's there. Well, perfect. Then you just build it into your tree, map it, and then remove it from your tree. So then that folder would go through to peer. Sherry, I understand what you're saying now. And yes, there is a way to go through and do that. It is going to be with the actual merge fields. So well, actually, we can do it instead of that way. Let's insert, and I'm going to come over here. Now, I'm on a Mac. So a lot of times I come up here to the top and I can do insert and field, but you can also come here to the insert tab and then come over to the right where you see field. This is going to give you a lot of, or all of the different things. I was here earlier when we were kind of talking about the header for a document. And I can come and find, let's see here. We'll do equations and formula. No. Where are you at? Do we not have one for it or a setting for it? Stephen, I actually don't know that off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. I don't know if there's a way to go through and do that.
I don't know in DocGens. I know if you have, again, FEDA or Outlaw, you can definitely do that.
For sure.
If you are using Excel, so you can have templates in your Excel, essentially. You might be able to work something that way, depending on what type of document that you're sending out. But I haven't seen the written. Let's ask.
For the question about formatting, if there's, you have $500,000 and you want to actually have that comment in there, what you can do is you're going to add a field, a word official merge field, and then you can put in let's see here. I don't know if I have anything that would work. You can copy whatever field it is that you're trying to go through and work with, and just make sure to not have those brackets in here. So I can do, let's do insurance dot limits if I was working in an insurance section. So then after this switch here, it might take a couple times for it too, but we have this switch that essentially it says what your merge format was for it. So let me actually we can figure it out here live whether or not this is actually working for us. That's what your number is looking like. I can come here and I can format it out to be able to, I believe, be able to put that in there. So I can update my field. Please let it work. Unknown switch argument. Let me toggle my field again and let me put my @ symbol because I always forget which one it needs to be. Let's see if that goes through. and works. This is also one of those ones where I have it written down. And so when I'm working on it, I use it. Oh, let's do one more. Let me see if I can actually just pull that up there. Oh, where is it at? Okay. One sec. Okay. Oh, thank you, Jasmine.
Mhm.
I will say, well, still, I got to go through and pull it because I need to figure out what exact or the exact format for this. Luis, you had a question about a calculation with numbers in the DocGen. I would say I would highly recommend not going through and doing that. There's not really much of an ability to do that in the first place. You can go through and you can have, if you have tables, let's say that, you have things that are pulling into a table, you can do like sum above, but those are not, I personally wouldn't trust those. It's not something I would rely on for it. Generally, if you want a calculation, if you can, insert a calculated field within your Filevine and then be able to pull it in there. If you can't do that, then might have to potentially look into do we need to do an Excel document to be able to go through and get this to pull out. Let me see if I can't get this rolling for us. If not, if you want to just shoot me an email too, I can always get that for you too, because I don't have my document pulled up for me right now, and I don't know off the top of my head. I'm so sorry. Because it should. And everyone might be just because it's like this. Yeah, it's giving me issues because I don't remember. So yeah, email me and then I can go through and I can send it back to you. Anyone who wants to know that, just email me and I'll send it to you. I can go through and I can pull it because I know we're at our 250-ish time here. And I want to make sure I can still answer that for you. And I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. You stumped me for it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Derek, for all of your knowledge. I saw a few folks ask kind of, hey, how can we get like individualized training or support? Or if you're like, hey, it's great that I know how to do these DocGens. I don't have the time to do that, to figure out the merge fields, anything like that. We do. I put a couple of links in the chat directly to our website. So if you are interested in signing up for optimization, which essentially is folks that are already live in Filevine that need some direction or assistance with projects, we can help. We also do training, so you can look on our website for that too, or you can send Derek and I an email. We can set up kind of a scoping call with you, or somebody else on our team will set up a scoping call to kind of go over what you're looking for and kind of what a timeline and cost would look like for something like that. Our website, again, will have all of the recorded sessions. You'll also be able to find our upcoming sessions and the topics there. We do rotate week to week, so definitely check there to kind of see what's coming up. If you have suggestions for topics, please let us know. We are here to help you all, and so super helpful if you all kind of tell us what you're looking to see in these sessions. And it looks like maybe Derek figured out this toggle.
Yes. So the switch that what I needed to use was a pound sign. So I had gone through and we started with an asterisk and then an asterisk and then I used the @ symbol and both of those are wrong. It's the pound sign and I can update my field and then I can toggle my field and there we go. So
Perfect.
uh, there
Quick.
you go. Just like that. And it's make sure you remove the brackets that come with from Filevine. This is going to be, of course, a field for you. But if it's a numeric field, then it should go through and it should work. If it's a single text field, it may not work for you.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Derek, and thank you all for joining us today for free help. We hope to see you in a future free help session, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
team.
And
Thanks all.
Derek.